This is my question. Is everything in the NFL about eliminating distractions? You're darn right. Right? I mean, the late, great Jimmy V, right? Your faith, your family, and Rutgers basketball. It needs to be that big of a deal, right? And honestly, coaches, if they're being, they want football above even faith and family, right? They want it above even that. They want it to be the focus.
Football is faith and family.
Exactly. The 3 Fs, and we have the order that we want you to think of them. Your health, below the team. Your family, below the team. Like, it's about so if everything is about eliminating distractions, guess what's become a distraction? Brian Burns' situation. I'm saying there's clips of Brian Burns over the last few days here standing and watching stretches, right? And I'm talking about his teammates are on the ground doing their stretching, and he is 5 yards away standing, like in the middle of the field, fully padded, just not doing anything. And I see, what's the point of this? The point is it's a distraction. If you're a coach, you are trying to eliminate every possible distraction out there. So if you are trying to play your leverage, if you're trying to annoy a team into giving you a new deal, you become a distraction. That's what Brian Burns has done. And whether it's intentional or not, it's something that is now actively hurting the Panthers. It is something that is now actively taking time away from your other preparation. I saw a report. The report is that Anthony Richardson of the Colts, on an off day, was at the facility for 8 hours. Whoa! A starting quarterback in the NFL, I believe he's a captain of an NFL team, on an off day, put in 8 hours at the facility. I hope you hear the sarcasm in my voice. Most quarterbacks are putting in more than 8 hours at the facility on a quote-unquote off day. Why? Because every eensy-weensy little minute more of preparation they see as an advantage over their opponent. Every single skosh of energy they can put into preparation, they see as an opportunity to earn an advantage. So guess what? The same logic works for a whole bunch of other avenues. Every single minute, every single second, every single beat of thought process and energy that goes into how are we going to answer questions to the media about Brian Burns? Hey, everybody, what's the plan if we have Brian Burns? What's the plan if we don't have Brian Burns? Frank Reich said he addressed it with the team. Every single minute that you are addressing that, you are not addressing something that could make you more prepared for Sunday. It is a zero-sum game, right? You only have a certain amount of minutes until the opening kick week 1. And if every other team has eliminated distractions and you're dealing with Brian Burns, you're at a disadvantage. Peyton Manning is talking about the quarterback documentary series he did, right? This past year it was Mariota, it was Mahomes, and it was Kirk Cousins, who, by the way, Kirk Cousins says he does zero football on his off day. I would not admit that publicly, Kirk, because every other quarterback is, even the rookies. But that documentary series, Peyton Manning told Pat McAfee today he's having a hard time finding new quarterbacks for this year because everyone wants to avoid the distraction. Everything in the NFL is about limiting distractions. I've seen good players, borderline great players, have shorter twilights of their career, shorter back nines of their career because they were seen as a distraction. They were good enough. They were productive enough. They were a player that if you just look at stats and ability would have increased, would have made a team better, but instead they were given the heave-ho out of the league because they were seen as a distraction. So how do you eliminate distractions in this case? You find a deal with Brian Burns.
You pay the man.
You pay him. I'm not saying you go bananas, right? You don't give him Nick Bosa money.
No.
You don't give him Aaron Donald money, but you give him realistic, this makes sense money. I hate when negotiations have to do the negotiation thing. When both sides of the negotiation, I don't care what you're negotiating, a house, a car, if you're into some kind of collectible, right? If you know something's worth $15, what do you have to do? I'll offer you 10. Oh, no, it's priced 20. Okay, I'll come up to 12. Why don't we meet at 17? 15 in a handshake? Deal, 15. Like, why could you? But you both knew where it was going to end up. Guess where I would almost guarantee Brian Burns is going to end up? $26.5, $27 million a year. But instead, right, by the way, check out the Panthers Playbook podcast. Our very own Dennis Cox, Chris Lee on it this week. He talked about how they've broken down the ask and the demand, right? Mm-hmm. What is it, 27, 28 million?
Yeah, he was asking for somewhere between that 27, 28 million dollar range is what Burns was asking for. The offer from the Panthers, somewhere in that 22, 23 range.
22, 23 isn't even a good faith.
No.
To me, the ask should have been, hey, I want 28. Hey, we'll give you 25. Settle at 26.5 or 27. That would have been the way to go about it. That would have been the obvious. The more you play we don't want to lose the negotiation game, the more likely your team is to have a distraction, get closer and closer to game day, week 1. And by the way, the Panthers, I like a lot of what the Panthers have on their roster. We've talked about the parts that I like. You are nowhere near good enough to be anything other than the most possibly prepared you could be.
You know what win-win scenario is in this situation in my mind? Brian Burns gets paid. Mm-hmm. And for the Panthers, the win is your best player is on the field. That's the win. And you can manipulate the salary cap any way you want to down the line. Let's be real. Salary cap it's not like the NHL where it's a hard cap. Mm-hmm. You can massage that thing any way you want to.
And you kind of jumped on what I was going to add, which is the win-win is Brian Burns gets paid. The win for the team is you get to structure it so you have the cap hits hit where you want. Right, you want the cap hit to hit this year, next year, and the year after, and as early as you can in Bryce Young's contract situation. So you can structure it how you want. Just get the guy his money. Get him on the field. Make sure he's playing week 1. Make sure he's playing week 1, or else you're letting a distraction live on significantly longer than it should in a sport and in a league that does absolutely everything they possibly can to make sure that distractions are taken care of. I'm talking about you put a tweet out that's going to draw headlines. They do everything they can to diffuse that situation in 2 seconds. There's no way to diffuse this Brian Burns situation other than making a deal. And this isn't like the Mike Evans situation. I don't know how many of you are following that, where he said Saturday before the Sunday game 1, if I don't have a deal, I'm gone. Because that's the other way to eliminate a distraction. Just tell Brian Burns, we're not going to re-sign you, and you're going to play this year, and then you'll just burn that bridge. But at least everybody knows what's up, right? It's just a decision has to be made. I don't recommend that second option I just said. I don't. Brian Burns, as of right now, is tied for the 12th best odds to be Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think you want him off the field any longer than he has to be.